I went to Columbia Journalism School, class of 1983. My father wanted me to go to law school, and maybe I should have listened to him. I think I would have been a crappy lawyer, but at least I would have made some money. Not that I did badly with this thing. But instead, I went to journalism school, and my class at Columbia Journalism School, I think like most classes, was filled with very smart people. Most people a lot smarter than I was or am. In fact, I think 4 or 5 of them went on to win Pulitzer Prizes. Almost all of them wanted to work in the newspaper business. Some went to radio, some went to television, but universally they were a pretty bright group. And any of those people that went to Columbia Journalism School with me could have gone to law school or business school at Columbia or somewhere else. And today, because we're all getting close to the age of retirement, they would be worth a lot of money. But because they went to journalism school, for the most part, they are not worth a lot of money. And why is that? Why is it that journalists get screwed while people who go to law school and business school do well? The difference is equity. And this is a really important point. Or, in a simple term, making real money. Anybody who goes to law school and gets good becomes a partner in a law firm, and they own a piece of the action that they produce. Anybody who goes to business school gets equity or buys stock or gets ownership or gets shares in a company that they form, and they own a piece of the product and the value of what they produce. Anybody who's a journalist goes to work for a newspaper. That newspaper is 100% the product of what they make. That's what the newspaper is. It's the content. Anybody who works in the television business, and I've been in the television for 30 years, it's about the content. When you turn on NBC Nightly News, it's about not Lester Holt, either he gets paid millions, it's about the content that's made by all the reporters and the producers. At the end of the day, the people who went to work for the law firm, they get a share, a percentage, they own part of the law firm. The people who went to work for the companies, they own a percentage of the companies. The people who went to work for the New York Times do not participate in ownership in the New York Times. They are not owners, they are not partners in the New York Times. The people who went to work for USA Today are not partners in USA Today, even though they make the content that allows the paper to be sold. The people who go to work for NBC News are not partners in NBC. They are essentially hired help. There's something inherently wrong with this. There's something inherently wrong with the idea that journalists, who are just as smart, or in some cases smarter, than lawyers or MBAs or vice presidents of banks, there's something inherently wrong with people who devote their lives to creating content, and that content has value that then gets sold, do not participate in the upside of the company that they are building for someone else. Why is that? Why are we so dumb as journalists? And how can we fix it? We are so dumb because we are inculcated from the beginning with this notion of journalism is a higher calling, like some kind of priesthood. We're out there to do the good of mankind. H.L. Mencken said, our job is to afflict the comfortable and comfort the afflicted. Why shouldn't our job be to be one of the comfortable? We work our tails off. This notion that we all have to be poor. Look at movies about journalists, whether it's All the President's Men or State of Siege. Who are the journalists? He's always the schmuck with the patches on his elbows, driving the crap car, living in the crummy apartment, getting up and filtering his coffee through old filters because he's got no money. But he's dedicated. He works hard. He works really hard. But he doesn't make any money. There's something wrong with this whole idea that we should make money because we make the product that makes the money. Now, there's a reason for this technically, and the technical reason is that up until extremely recently, you couldn't own a newspaper because you had to afford the printing press and the ink, and trust me, that costs a lot of money. You couldn't own a television station because you had to own cameras and edit rooms and giant broadcast towers and studios, so you became an employee. You essentially became a slave in the CBS plantation, for better or for worse, paid a pittance, the least they could get away with. And when you got to be a certain age, or they threw you out, and then it was all over. You may read about correspondents who make, $30 million a year. Bill O'Reilly, believe me, that's one in a million. Most people get paid minimum wage or less than minimum wage, especially in today's market. They work their tails off and they end up with nothing. Well, that was understandable because you didn't have a choice. You couldn't really say, screw you, I'm going to start my own television network. But now you can. Now the only thing it takes to make the product is, in fact, an iPhone, because the thing shoots 4K, which is broadcast, it edits, it adds graphics, it adds music, it live streams like we're doing now. Anybody can start their own television network. Very few people do because they're afraid, because we have 100 years years of inculcation of people who make product are down here, and put your stuff on YouTube and leave me alone and the real people who work over here. This is just a lot of crap. Now, we run these boot camps all the time, as you probably know, and we finished one last week, and a very interesting guy came in, and I'm going to write about him today on VJ World. You can read about his name is Ben Sargent. I like the guy a lot. He's 40 years old. He's been in several reality TV shows. All right, he didn't work for the New York Times, but still, he's a content creator. He was on the Food Network, and he was on the DIY Network, and, you know, he ran around. He worked his tail off. Ben, you got to come in. Ben, we're doing another shoot. Ben, we're doing this. Ben, we're doing that. And they went for series, 2 years, 3 years, 1 year, 13 shows per series. Maybe they paid $100,000, $150,000. This is the network, $150,000 per show times 13 shows. There's millions of dollars crossing the table. What did Ben get? Nothing. Nothing. He got paid a pittance. The production company got all the money. Ben got to be on TV. And when it's over, it's over. Now he's trying to make a living doing, Airbnbs. I'm going to produce some stuff with him, but he's going to own it. The difference is Ben can produce. He can own the product. He can own his own stuff. If you have an iPhone or a camera, if you got a camera, but if you have an iPhone, you can create your own stuff and you can own your own stuff. You don't have to work for someone else and give it to them and give them your labor and get paid a paycheck and call it a day. This is a revolution this is a multi-billion dollar, probably $1 trillion business in which the people who are actually doing the work, who actually make the stuff that is actual value, are getting screwed every single day. And the reason they're getting screwed is they don't understand that they don't have to be the subservient employee. They can turn around and they can go, hey, I want equity. Let me give you an example just off the top of your head. If at the New York Times, and I'm not suggesting, but here's an idea, if at the New York Times, the top 25 reporters all got together and turned to Arthur Jr. and said, you know what, Arthur, screw you. Either you give us 20% of the company or to share among employees, or 50% of the company to share among employees, or we're all leaving and we're going to start our own online site doing exactly what we do now, except we're going to take the money. And you know what? If we get rid of the building and your HR people and your overhead and your family and all your stock options and all that crap, I bet we generate enough money to split it among ourselves and do pretty well. And that's what they should do. So on November 15th, just as a footnote here, I'm going to do a thing at CUNY, one of these New York City meetups, 6 p.m. to 7:30 p.m., called How to Make Money with Your Video. Now, it's an interesting title, but the whole point is here that this technology frees the content creators to own their own product and to profit from their work. And that, my friends, is what you should be doing, and that's how the business should work. Making money is not a crime. Journalists, we don't have to think of rich people as evil. We can think of rich people as us. And that's how we should think about us. I'll talk to you later. I hope you found this interesting. Bye.